Hey, Sarah, Happy New Year.
Hey, Casey. Happy New Year to you too. Welcome back, everybody, to another Apothecary Knits episode. Just going to get into it, I think. Yeah, we kind of have a few things that we want to talk to you about today. And let's kick it off with the most exciting part is that we're hosting another knit along, which we're super excited about. This one has some parameters around it besides just a pattern that we're all going to do together. So we thought it would be really fun to do a little bit of a budget challenge for the new year. So without further ado, we're going to be knitting the La Pouf, which I think, Casey, you have pictures of. It's a free pattern. So let's start there for our budget challenge. Free pattern. You can access it on Ravelry, but it's put out by Hedgehog Fibers. So if you're not able to access Ravelry, it's on their website. And it comes in two different sort of pattern options. The sweater, the pullover, which Casey just showed, and then this is the cardigan. The cardigan was created first, and then there was an ask, I think, for the pullover. So they made the pullover, so that's exciting. And just for the details, the budget piece of it is that we're hoping to keep it at $15 or less per 100 gram, approximately 400 yard skein. It is knit in fingering weight held double, and we'll talk about why in just a second if you're not familiar with the pattern. So we're trying to keep it at $15 or less per skein. We did it that way instead of saying like a price per project because everybody's going to knit different sizes, and of course all the sizes require different amounts of yardage. So we figured that was sort of the easiest way to do it. Can you knit from stash? You can. Can you knit from gifts? You can. But the ask is that if you're pulling from your stash or knitting from something that was gifted to you, that it still falls within that $15 per skein budget request. So that means that, if your very sweet partner or friend or fiber friend or whoever gifted you $30 skein Hedgehog Fibers, it was free for you, but it was still $30. So that doesn't count. What am I missing?
Yeah, I think we had talked about this months ago, and the idea was, after a holiday, where you're spending money maybe on food for family and gifts, it's nice to then, start the new year, not maybe splurging on the really expensive yarns, but really intentionally thinking about, can I knit something really nice that I'm going to love within a budget? And so, but also not just knitting with yarn that you don't love just because it's the cheapest yarn to find. So, the challenge is kind of fun. Go to your yarn stores and look for the budget bins or the bargain bins or the clearance section. See what you can find. Sometimes there's really nice yarn that's on sale, or think about what your favorite workhorse yarn is or your budget yarn. There's still really nice yarns out there that aren't, $28 or $32 a skein. Right. And we love our indie dyers and our nice yarns and fibers. But there's a place for the budget yarn as well.
And I think that right now there's indie dyers that are doing like clear out my stash so I can start fresh for the New Year's sales. Like, I definitely just scored yarn. I think Casey just scored yarn too for like $12 a skein. That's indie dyed. So it's out there. That's ironically not the yarn I'm using for this challenge, but but it's out there. I mean, I think you can find it, and I think Casey's right. Like, we really wanted to see, within the bounds, like, how can you knit something that you love and not feel like you have to blow a fortune on yarn. That's not to say don't ever dye or buy indie dyed yarn, because I mean, look at me, I'm wearing a sweater made out of beautiful Spin Cycle, but just at the opposite end of the spectrum, like, what's possible. I feel like sometimes we explore it less, often or whatever. And I feel like a lot of times also all these amazing dyers get promoted and it's just not accessible for everybody, right? So let's look at some things that maybe are a little more accessible if you're on a budget, or if you just can't splurge for yarn, or if yarn just isn't your splurge choice, right? And you can knit it out of anything. So if you want to knit it out of wool, silk, linen, acrylic, it doesn't matter. Like pick whatever fits your particular style and the color scheme that you want, etc. So all yarns are welcome. And I think the goal is just to knit something that you love, right? Like, and to keep it within the budget. So we're really excited to see what people come up with. I think there's probably tons of yarn out there that I don't know about. I mean, there's yarn all through the range that I don't know about. So we're excited to see what people come up with and what people do for their colors, etc. Just some technical stuff. The knit along is going to officially start on Friday, January 15th. So you've got some time to collect your supplies and things like that. And then it's going to end July 31st or July. That would be a really insanely long knit along. I'm so sorry. March 31st, it's going to end. So you've got just about 2.5-ish months or so to complete either the cardigan or the pullover. Casey, do you know which one you're going to knit yet?
I keep going back and forth. That's why I have both patterns printed, because I'm like, I don't know. But I'm probably going to end up going the easy route with the pullover, just because I don't love purling. But I might knit the cardigan later, or I might change my mind. I don't know. But I'm kind of feeling the pullover right now, just because I'd like a easy mindless knit, because I also have some whips I have a whip that I started with cables, and I'm like, oh God, reading that chart's not going to be fun. So I might need a project that's easy going.
Yeah. I went back and forth, I think, for the same reason, especially because I feel like in January, at the beginning of the year, I don't know how it feels for everybody else, but like maybe it's because the holidays season from like Thanksgiving to the end of the year is so like rush, like the end of school for my kid and all the holiday stuff and family and food and blah, 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 right? So it's like so massively rushing. And then I feel like January 1st hits and we never have anything planned on that day. I know lots of people have traditions for that day, but we never have anything planned on that day. Maybe that's our tradition. And it always just feels so mellow, like the whole world like slows down in January. And so I thought about knitting the pullover for that reason, because it's just a little more like languishing kind of knit, but I'm in love with the cardigan. I think I'm going to knit the cardigan, even though I hate picking up the stitches along the collar or along the front. That drives me crazy, but
yeah.
I think I'm going to do it. It was the cardigan that really made me fall in love with the La Pouf to begin with. So,
well, I think your colors too will look so nice as a cardigan as well. I mean, as a pullover too, but do you want to show your?
Yes. So I really wish I could show you my colors in real life, but I can't because of all the holidays. It's been delayed in the mail. So actually it will ironically be here tomorrow. So maybe I will take a lovely picture and post on Instagram or something once I get it. But I am using yarn from Knit Picks. In fact, Knit Picks is sort of officially, unofficially sponsoring the prizes and things for this knit along. So thank you to them. But prior to us reaching out for sponsorship from them, actually, Casey and I both chose to do Knit Picks yarn already. I love them. I think they have great patterns, great budget options. And as a sort of occasional dyer, I can get bear yarn from them too, which is very reasonably priced and has been so far really fun to dye. So anyway, I was excited to go. They were the first place I looked, and I love getting things like I'm a real, I don't like digital. So I mean, I do, but I don't. So anyway, I get their catalog, and their catalog had this beautiful spread in it. You see it. And so I decided La Pouf's originally a 5 skein fade. So I actually ordered these 6 skeins because I wasn't sure if I wanted to go with these 5. On the website, this white looks quite stark as a contrast from this to this, like the jump seems big. So I wasn't sure if I wanted it. So I ordered these 5 because if it isn't that stark, I think I do want to start with the light. But in case it is too big a jump, I ordered that dark one as well. So I could do this fade. So it's going to be one or the other. But it's coming tomorrow, you guys. I'm so excited to see it. And I'm so glad that they put together this little spread, because I was not sure what colors I wanted to go in. And then I saw this in their catalog and I was like, ooh, I'll just do that. It's so pretty. So I'm really excited to get it. And I will definitely post it when I get it.
I love those colors.
I know, it's so good.
Well, I only went with 2 colors. So I'm going to do a 2-color fade, but it's going to look like 3 because of the way, you know, the fade works, right? Where it kind of blends in the middle, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. And mine's going to be really bubblegum pink and blue. I'm kind of going back to my neon phase. Well, it never really died, but still in the neon phase. But so I've got this really, really bubblegum blue with pink.
What color is that called? It's Hawthorne, right? Sorry, mine's Hawthorne.
It's a Knit Picks brand, but it's called Muse. I think it's their like speckly, really, really speckly stuff. And the colorway, does it say on here? Oh yeah, Enthusiasm Speckle. And then I think when they had a sale, I bought this around Black Friday weekend a while back, and I think it ended up being like $12 or $13 a skein. Regularly, I think it's about 15. So it still, I think, would have been in the budget challenge, but I did get a little bit more of a deal. And then this is really pink and blue. So same colors, just with more of the white. And this will be the starting color, and it's called Delight Speckle. So, and I did swatch because I actually have never done a fade well, I kind of did a fade with the Smart Kitty sweater that I designed, but that was just because I used some pink scrap and blended it in with, but I haven't done an official like fade pattern before. So this is my swatch, and I didn't like how it was like, even though I used 2 different strands, it was kind of pooling or striping. So I need to kind of figure that out, how to get it to not do that. But maybe it's just because of the small circumference I was knitting. But I do like
show up as much when you make a whole sweater.
Yeah, I'm hoping it won't, but I do really like the colors. I think, so Sarah, you were telling me maybe, or suggesting that maybe something at the end with a little bit of black speckle might kind of give it more depth, and I agree with that. So I might end up trying to find like maybe a mini skein or a smaller skein that has a little bit of black speckle at the end, but I do like it.
Darker, even darker blue would work.
Oh yeah,
because if you look at the patterns, I don't know if you want to hold one of them up again, but you know, the really dark piece is really mostly just around the cuff. Like it doesn't even really make it into the body of the sweater. So if you just had that little dark pop of contrast, maybe for this sleeve.
Just for the cuff. Yeah, that's a good idea. We had talked maybe about like even just a mini skein could probably cover the cuffs.
I think so.
Which is within budget too, because those are usually fairly cheap. But yeah, as a middle school teacher, I went very middle school neon bubblegum colors for this one.
I totally love it. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be good. I like it. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the fade. So now that you've pulled your swatch out, let's chat. So this pattern, if you're not familiar with it, obviously uses a fade. If you look through the sample photos, it doesn't require a fade. I mean, just like anything else, you could just knit the pattern straight with one color. It's 2 strands of fingering. So fingering held double. You could also knit it out of DK, right? That's literally what DK means, is double knitting, which is 2 strands of fingering together. So you could knit it out of a solid color DK. If you are going to try the fade, you could fade it in DK too, but I appreciate the way that they do the fade, which is because you're holding 2 strands double, you start with color A, 2 strands of color A, and then you drop one and add color B, and then you drop the second A and you add a second B, right? And then you drop one B and add C, and you drop the second B, you have C together, right? So it's kind of like, because you're constantly playing with the 2 strands, it's a very subtle shift, as opposed to just having like color A and color B and having to do something where you're alternating like one A, then a row of B, then a row of A, then a row of B, and then finally all B, right? is a typical way to do a fade if you just have one strand. But because you have two strands, you really can blend it really nicely and really well. So it gives you a lot of room to play with the fade. So it originally calls for 5-color fade if you're following the pattern to its to its T. But I mean, really, and even written into the pattern instructions, they talk about like you can kind of do whatever you want. And there are no rules in the pattern about like, okay, row 12, now switch to color, you know, one strand of color B or whatever. There's none of that. So you're really making up where you want the fade changes to be. If you do have access to Ravelry, there are several projects where people have put really nice notes about like, I did, you know, 12 rows and changed every 12 rows. I changed out the stranding or whatever, or every 15 rows or whatever. So if you want to emulate what they did, you can kind of, you know, do it that way. If you want it to be very even, you can count up the number of rows and then, you know, sort of divide it out for however many colors you're going to use for your fade if you want it to be more of a really even fade. But if you look in the original, it's actually light for quite a long time at the top and then not dark for that much. And, you know, as we were saying, the true dark really is just for the cuffs on both samples. The true dark, like the darkest color, doesn't even make it into the body of either sweater, I don't think. So in that, you know, Casey's doing a 2-color fade, maybe with a third dark color at the end. Are you going to put the dark color in the body? You think just the cuffs? I
don't know, maybe just the cuffs. When you were talking about the color changes, I was looking at this as you're saying that, and it almost looks like usually when you divide for sleeves in a top-down circular yoke, you know, it's usually mid-bust, and it looks kind of mid-bust here where she started adding the second color in. So that's a lot of yarn right there. A lot of the project is in the yoke there. So
in that one, it almost looks like a 3-color fade. I have to admit, I haven't looked at the pullover pattern because I think I'm going to do the cardigan. So, but that one looks like a 3-color fade.
It does. Yeah, because it's kind of like just a white and black speckle here. And then it gets really light for a second.
Oh, maybe there is a lighter color in the middle.
I don't know, or maybe that's just how this skin, I don't know. But then there's more orange and dark brown that comes in at the end. And then it's just the dark brown, like, I don't know,
at the
coffee color here. Yeah.
Maybe it is a 5-color, but it's really close.
Well, and that's also what works so well with the hedgehog fiber yarn, which I tried to find speckly yarn that was similar, is when you have speckly or variegated yarn, you don't see such a stark transition when you change colors. And so that's something to think about too, is if you are trying to do a fade with tonals or semi-solids, you're going to have stripes, like very distinct stripes. But if you are using a variegated or a speckly, you know, it kind of just, especially since you have the marled effect, you kind of can't tell, you can kind of tell mid-bust here, but otherwise it's a pretty smooth transition. So just keep that in mind too.
Yeah.
When you're looking for yarn.
Yeah. I think this is a good place where, again, if you can access Ravelry or even on Instagram, if you look up the like La Pouf cardigan hashtag or La Pouf pullover, I don't know what the sweater's called, hashtag, or maybe it's just La Pouf. You can get examples of what people have done. And if you are able to access Ravelry, one of the nice things there is I almost always, when I look at a pattern, if I figure out if I want to knit it or not, I always go into the projects and just see like, what does it look like in not the designer's yarn and fancy pictures. Just to see like what other people have done, what other colors work, or if I already know I want to make something and I'm like, oh, what colors do I want to make it in? I'll also go into the projects and look and see, because I'm almost always drawn to something like, oh, I like this pattern when it's more dark or more light or whatever. But this is a good place. This particular pattern has been made a lot of times, especially the cardigan, which even if you're not thinking of making the cardigan was first, and I think a lot of people have, more people have made it. So it might be a good place to go just to look for like inspiration. But you can see people have made it in DK weight, people have made it in one color, people have made it in solid color fades, where you can see how it will look different without the speckles, you know, so you can get an idea of what all these things look like. just by going through people's projects and seeing what finished pieces that they have. And then you can get a sense of what you like, what you don't like. Somebody made it in a solid color. Actually, it was like a really rich, beautiful solid color, and I loved it. I thought for a hot minute about making mine actually in a DK weight, just solid color, because I love the shaping of the cardigan, just even without the fade. The fade makes it more visually interesting, I think, because of the colors, but just the shape of the cardigan itself with the poofed sleeves and the way it's cut, like I already really like it. So I did think, if you're trying to make it on a budget, it's probably cheaper to make it in DK yarn than to make, double stranded fingering weight, right? Because when you double strand something, you have to make it, it's going to be twice as much yarn, right? As if you just bought it one time. So, and often the pricing between DK skeins and fingering skeins are similar. Yes, there's less yardage in a DK skein, but it doesn't compensate for having to buy fingering twice for one project, basically. So I thought about it because it doesn't look bad. I mean, it just looks different, right? So anyway, it's a good place to go for inspo. I do that for any and every pattern almost, except that I test it a lot and then I can't look at things because I'm the thing that's being made. Anyway. So then the other question that came up looking at the pattern, because there isn't a set sort of fade guideline of like when to change colors and whatever, is what do you do if you're knitting size 4 through, I think it's 8, whatever the top pattern is? Because if you're doing a traditional 5 skein, if you're doing the 5 skein fade that it's called for, sizes 1, 2, and 3 call for only 5 skeins of yarn, right? So then you can buy 1 skein in color A, 1 skein in color B, 1 skein in color blah, 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 right? But what happens when you're knitting size 4, which I think is the size I'm gonna knit, or higher, when you need 6, 7, 8 skeins of yarn? And there's no guidelines on the fade. So which skeins are you buying more of? I mean, which skeins are you not buying as much of, right? So some of that, I think there's no guidelines in this pattern at all. And so when I went to buy my yarn, I didn't think about it till I went to click on how many to add to cart. And I was like, oh, I should probably figure out how I want this fade to work. So for me, looking at the pattern, I wanted the fade to emulate kind of what I see going on in the pattern. And so for me, there's more light than there is dark. So I bought 2 skeins of the top color, the lightest color, which not really in keeping with the budget idea of things, I suppose, but because I can't see the yarn, that drives me crazy. Like I said, not really digital. Like there's some things I very much like doing in person. So anyway, because I couldn't see the yarn, I didn't know if I wanted to do the first 5 or the second sort of 5. I bought 2 of the first and 2 of the second, right? Because if I'm going to start one over, then I'm going to have to. So I gave myself options, but at any rate, I decided to go with 2 skeins of the top, what's going to be in the yoke, because at least in the way that they faded the pattern in the samples, there's much more here than there is to the sleeves and to the body of the sweater. And I think I'll do the sort of collar button band, there's no buttons, piece in one of the mid colors, which is what they also do in the pattern. So that's how I decided to do it. But, so my size calls for 6 skeins, right? So I only had to buy a double of 1. But if you had an 8 skein fade, you could choose to do 4 colors and do two of each, right? You could choose to do a 5 skein fade and maybe double up on the first few. Or, so part of that's just trying to figure out where you want the pieces of the fade to be bigger, longer. But it just so that you're not surprised when you go look at the pattern, there's no guideline. It just tells you, buy 6 skeins and figure it out. And so for me, I was like, oh, that's something that's maybe tricky if you've never faded before, So yeah.
And remembering to save for the sleeves too, when you're knitting up the body, make sure you don't use all of one color unless you don't want that on the sleeves.
Right. And there is a guideline in the pattern, I think, that said half the skein, if you want the fade to be the same, they recommend about half the skein, about 50 grams left over for the sleeves. So if you want the sleeves to follow the same fading pattern. So that's something to think about too, is that you're only using half of it in the body. So you only have half a skein basically to fade into the body. But if you're knitting with the dark only on the sleeves, then you don't have to worry about that as much. And you could still use more in the yoke, because the yoke part of the sleeve color is not going to be very prominent, right? Because you're probably fading about where you're dividing. And you'll have that whole extra dark in the bottom. So it's tricky. It's like a complicated color scheme to think about if you're fading for this pattern, because there aren't guidelines, which is both freeing and confusing. I think could be easily confusing.
Should we talk about the giveaway launch of the Knit Along?
Yes. So to help, with this idea of budget yarn and whatnot, we wanted to, us and Knit Picks as well, wanted to sponsor yarn for a knitter. So we're going to do it as a giveaway. So the giveaway will run through, what do we say, January 9th. It's going to be done through our Instagram, and we're going to be giving away 8 skeins of yarn in a 4 skein fade, which Casey has. She can show it to you.
Do you want to see?
We want to see.
Okay. So I have it in this cutesy little basket right now, but we have, so we were talking about fading strategies, and I just went ahead and requested 2 of each of these colors. So there's 8 skeins, so anyone can knit this pattern here. And this is in Cobbler Speckle. It looks like berry cobbler. And this orangey yellow one is the peach Melba Speckle. And then we have Italian ice, this nice green, yellow, and blue fade here. And it's nice because the speckles, well, except for maybe this one and this one. Well, no, some of them piggyback. So this has like the same yellow here that's in the green. And then the same blue in this green is in this last one here. And so this last color is blueberry speckle. And
So pretty.
I don't know, I like the rainbow. I like the
rainbow effect.
Yeah.
You of course are not required to knit this pattern if you win these skeins, but the intention was to sort of help offer yarn support for somebody, maybe if they wanted to do our knit along. And so that's why we picked the skeins that would match up with this pattern if needed. So but yeah, there will be more detail. All the details will be on our Instagram for the giveaway, and the giveaway will be, like I said, ending January 9th. So if you did want to join the knit along starting on the 15th, there's hopefully going to be enough time to get it shipped out to you so that you would have it for the start of that. Shipping will be in the continental US only, unfortunately, just so that we can make sure that it gets to people in case they do want to use it for the knit along. So thanks to Knit Picks for donating all of that. And then if you do decide to participate in our knit along and you finish and post and all those things, we do also have a prize for this knit along from Knit Picks as well. So they sponsored us to give away this amazing interchangeable knitting needle set. It's one of their Cocobolo sets, and I think it's in like a plum colored case.
Yeah, it's so nice. It's a wooden interchangeable needle set. I'm just going to open it because I had to peek at it. So it has like really nice wooden needles here. And I think it starts size 4 and ends at size 11. And I don't know if the camera can pick up how cute these are, but it's nice and smooth. I just got a needle set. How do you pronounce it? Is it likey?
That's what I say, but I'm pretty sure that that's wrong. So if somebody knows, they should correct us in the comments below, because I'm pretty sure that's not right.
Yeah, I know it's not right. I think I've heard Andrea Mowry say it like completely different way in her podcast, but
that's not right. But if you say likey, I think everyone knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, somebody tell me how to say it correctly, please.
Yeah, phonetically spell it in the
I know. I'm like embarrassed that I don't know how to say it.
But these are comparable. Like they are smooth. It almost feels like there's like a resin coating, like the Likey needles. They're really nice. And so it comes with the needles, and then it has a pouch down below, a zipper pouch, and inside there's a little tin with stitch markers. It's even labeled stitch markers. I'll open that up so you can see there's all sorts of metallic colors in here. And then has one more zipper pouch right here on the other side. And that's where you have your cables and your end pieces and your tightener, or your, what do you call them? The needle tightener thing.
Know, the T-pin, the key or whatever.
Oh yeah. And it's so nice. It just zips up, and it's like this faux leather exterior. And I think when I was looking at this online, it's like worth $90 or $100. It's a really nice needle set.
A nice set. Yeah.
And they also sent a cute little enamel pin that says handmade on it. Yeah.
Adorable.
So cute. So that goes to the lucky winner who participates and finishes their Le Pouf with us.
That's right. So very excited to be sponsored by Knit Picks and have all these prizes and giveaways and things for you for this knit along. So I hope that you'll join us starting January 15th. Again, we're going to post all the details for everything, how to submit your finished sweater, etc., all on our Instagram, which is at Apothecary Knits. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go check us out there. Please follow us so that you don't miss any updates there. And yeah, it should be a fun time. I'm excited for the Le Pouf. It's a pattern I've been wanting to make for a while, so I'm super stoked that we're doing it for our knit along. So yay!
And it's a free pattern.
And it's a free pattern. Cool. It's great. So Hedgehog actually has a lot of free patterns on their site, which are really nice. So it's also a good place to just check it out.